Welcome back to another episode of Routes Through Pokemon Adventures. I'm Shea Locke.
I'm Ruby.
And together we are a father-daughter team journeying through the Pokemon series of video games, anime, and Pokemon Adventures manga. Last week we detailed our journey from New Barktown to Violet City, where we encountered Faulkner, the gym leader who used Flying type, which was a nice surprise for my choice of Grass type Pokemon. And, surprisingly, they had some other moves to use against us that were good against some of the other Pokemon we'd use against their Flying type. So,
Wasn't there like a Mud Slap?
yeah, it was like Mud Slap, which is a ground move, which worked really good against our Onix that we traded for. Because Rock was supposed to be good against Flying, but then they started Mud Slapping us.
It was more annoying for you, though.
Yeah, it was. Because my starter was weak too, so. But now we get to cover the journey through the anime and manga to the same area. And I looked ahead without trying to spoil anything about what episodes are coming exactly, like the details of the plots of the episodes, but just when they get to the gym, because the titles of the episodes are, especially in Japanese, are very clear when they're at the gym. And so we will have about 3 episodes before we get to part 2 of the video game for Gold and Silver and Crystal. So, this is part 1 of our Johto journeys. So, we will be covering 3 chapters of the manga and 5 episodes of the anime, because I think there's 15 episodes to get to the gym, and about 9 chapters of the manga to get there. So, it kind of cuts up pretty evenly there. So, the chapters we'll be covering are So we're starting in Manga Volume 8, and we have Chapter 91, Murkrow Row, or maybe Row. Murkrow Row. Doesn't rhyme exactly, but, you know. Chapter 92, Who Gives a Hoothoot? And Chapter 93, Sneasel Sneak Attack. And then for the anime, we will be covering Episode 1 of Season 3, Don't Touch That Dial. Episode 2, The Double Trouble Header. Episode 3, A Sappy Ending. Episode 4, Roll On, Pokemon. Episode 5, Illusion Confusion. Before we dive into all the episodes and chapters, let's catch up where we're at. So we're most of the way through VBS week. My wife has left with our youngest group of kiddos for a wedding and to visit some other family on this vacation. So they'll be gone for about a week and a half, giving us an easy opportunity to record some episodes. So as far as Pokemon is concerned, I know actually just today, Pokemon Go started another timed research. I think I got like 5 plus some hours, days to get through it. And it's all about Steel type Pokemon. Plus there's catch quests as well with evolutions and everything. So I'm excited to do all that. I recently got a shiny Klink, which was super exciting, and had I known I needed to evolve some Steel-type Pokemon, I would have waited, but I've already evolved my Klink into Klinkling, the final evolution. He's not a very good shiny, he's only like 0 stars or whatever, but still, I don't know where Klink is from, I don't know what generation, but I like him, and so I was excited. I like gears and stuff, I like clockwork and all that stuff, and I really like the shiny theme of having it like being like a bronzish color and stuff, making it more old style and steampunky and things. Yeah, it's cool. Although the color of like the nose part of the gear or whatever being a brighter color makes it a little clownish, but that's okay. I finished off the other timed research and stuff, except I have one that's, I still have like 30 some days, but I only have 1 kilometer to go on my 20 kilometers, so I can get to step 2. Still have some raids to do for one of the quests, like I did last time I recorded. We haven't watched any more Pokemon Horizons. In fact, we've been watching a lot of Lost lately because my kiddos hadn't seen it before, and I like the show a lot, and they're enjoying it.
And I don't mind not watching a lot of Pokemon Horizons because when we finally do start watching it, they might have started releasing another season or something.
Or another part of the season.
Another part, because like the longer we wait, the more that comes.
Yeah, so we won't have to have those long gaps like we have with Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Which I looked up, by the way, and we haven't even hit as long as we had to wait between 3 and 4 yet. So, I was right about that.
Wait, did I have to wait for 3 to 4?
Yeah, you did.
But I didn't have to wait from 2 to 3.
Oh, yeah, probably.
And you didn't. I had to wait like a month, but because I had just started watching it.
Sure.
Because I was just allowed to.
Yeah. Yeah, you're the one that can handle some of the scary stuff easier than a lot of the rest of the family.
It's not even that scary.
You're growing up more like I did, where you can watch scary stuff and it doesn't really faze you. Some of the other kiddos, it's not so good.
Yeah, some things I just don't like the scary things because I don't like being creeped out of it sometimes, but...
Sure. Oh, and then TMNT Splintered Fate, which was a Apple exclusive game, now came to the Switch. And my brother and I and you guys have all been playing a ton of it, and it's been a blast!
Mm-hmm.
I really want more TMNT games to come out like that now instead of just the regular brawler types, which I grew up with and I still enjoy, but this style, which is more like X-Men Legends style, where it's the top view and got the powers and all that stuff. I like that. One last thing is that Ruby already has her own phone, and now Rosella does too, so they're free to play a little more Pokemon Go when they want to. And also every other game under the sun when it comes to Rosella.
Yeah. Whole time.
But that is where we're at for now. So let's cover the Pokemon Adventures manga. So first we have Chapter 91 of Volume 8, the beginning of the Gold and Silver Arc, Murkrow Row. We start off with a woman working in a kitchen and an Apom on her shoulder. She tells the Apom, Abo, to go wake up some sleepyhead. So then we are treated to a big old picture of who we have to assume is the hero of the story, and he is snoozing in bed, wearing Pokeball pajamas and holding a broken clock in one hand. There's also a Game Boy by his head and a skateboard leaning against the bed. He also has a jacket and hat hanging from one post. But then there is also like 10 Pokemon in the room around his bed, including the Apom. What are the other ones, Ruby?
There's an Oddish, a Weedle, Execute, there's a Lickitung, a Krabby, I think. It's not very big, so Krabby. A Sandshrew, a Chansey, and a Drowsy. Oh, and a Poliwag.
Ooh, and a Poliwag. Hey, that's what Red had too. He had a Poliwhirl when we met him, but... Alright. And let's see, so... Then we have a series of panels that shows the Apom tickling his nose, the Drowsy pulling off the covers, I think the Oddish is jumping on his head, and then... Is that a Kakuna messing with his hair? Okay. Because did you mention a Weedle in the last panel?
Mm-hmm.
So we have a Weedle and a Kakuna? Or did the Weedle just suddenly evolve?
Just now it went... Pew!
So then Drowsy uses psychic moves to dress the kid, and Lickitung licks his face, which is hilarious. Because when he comes down to eat, his mom, the one that sent Abo, says that he washed his face. Which he didn't really. It was just Lickitung saliva.
Which is kind of disgusting, but...
Who knows? Maybe Lickitung tongues are super clean. Maybe they're soapy too. Who knows?
They eat so much, I'd be surprised if they're clean.
Well, they might have naturally cleaning tongues. Who knows? We don't know. Pokemon are strange. We also learn that he likes his hair to be a bit crazy. And then he puts on his cap backwards. And he rides his skateboard out of the house. With many of the Pokemon in tow. What's interesting is that on this page, with all the Pokemon they do show, there is neither a Weedle or Kakuna to be seen.
There's no Weedle or Kakuna in any of the pictures.
Yeah.
Except for the first one.
Except for the Weedle in the first one and the Kakuna later. So we still don't know if there's one or both. Or maybe it's already a Butterfree. I don't know. They evolve fast.
Butterfree?
Oh, Beedrill, I meant. Sorry. I don't know my Pokemon anymore.
Thought you were supposed to know Pokemon.
It's been so long since we played Red and Blue.
And yet, I know, and you don't?
Shh. Alright. So then... We then get a caption that lists the town as New Barktown and a sign pointing to Professor Elm's Research Center. So we got Professor Elm, just like in the video game. Started New Barktown, just like in the game. It's all lining up so far. Inside we find that the professor is studying something, and he mentioned it has been a year since the Battle of Kanto. Now, we don't know what that means specifically, but I'm assuming that means the battle that Yellow had with the Elite Four. Because the only other battle that could be considered would be the one at Sylph Company, or with Giovanni himself, which wasn't super well known. And if they are referring to that, then this would mean that this actually takes place a year before Yellow's journey, because Yellow's journey took 2 years after Red won the championship or tournament or whatever.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming this means the Yellow Elite Four battle.
Yeah.
So you mentioned something about Professor Oak finishing up some modifications quickly, and then we see that he has the 3 Johto starter Pokemon in Pokeballs. So Totodile, Chikorita, and Cyndaquil.
I'm just gonna say Totodile is the top of the triangle that they're in, and he's in the middle of the picture, so he's the main character, and I'm the main character.
You're hilarious. All right. So then... So later, Gold is playing pool at his house, I think, and listening to his radio, where DJ Mary starts up one of her songs, A Boy and His Lapras. And we remember, when we would check the radios and stuff in the houses, it was always talking about DJ Mary, and then we would also have, like, Pokemon Oak's Pokemon Hour or something like that. I don't remember what it said, but things like that. Yeah. So, that's cool that we're including that stuff. And Gold has a number of his Pokemon with him still. Then
Not the Kakuna, is that right?
Yeah, Kakuna.
And Weedle.
So no Kakuna and Weedle still. But then the radio fritzes, and Gold sees a shadowy figure outside. He leaps out and gets after the person, who turns out to be Youngster Joey, dressed just like the youngsters are. He was sure the kid had something to do with his antenna being messed with, but Joey explains a Murkrow flew up with some luggage he was carrying, and Gold figures it took the antenna too. Because it wouldn't be the first time. Jeez, Gold. This guy jumps to conclusions so rashly and then switches gears to what makes more sense in the blink of a freaking eye. He's like, "You did it!" Oh, Murkrow's up there with my luggage. Oh, he probably took the antenna too, because they do that sometimes. Ridiculous. Like, if it's done it before, then there's a good chance a Murkrow flew by before as well, instead of some kid on the ground.
I mean, if he does this all the time, then yeah, that's a little crazy. But if this was the time he did it, I can see some people doing that one there. But it sounds like he does that a lot.
But you know what? You know who Gold reminds me of? My eldest son, who's been on the show before. Jumps to conclusions and then switches gears super fast.
And sometimes not even to the right conclusion.
No. So then, to deal with the thieving Murkrow, Gold puts a Pokeball on the ground and then uses the pool cue to hit it in such a way that it flies way up into the air. Abo pops out with a rope it brought with it, and it grabs the antenna and the bag. It ties the rope around the bag and launches it down the tree, and the other end of the rope is tied around Gold, so he goes flying upward, and he sails over the branch. But as he does, he has a Pokeball at the end of his cue, and he launches it and catches the Murkrow, and then he falls down the other side. But he's caught by Abo, and all his other Pokemon are relieved as they rush out of the place where he was playing pool.
Except for Kakuna and Weedle.
Well, we didn't see them there, so of course they weren't there to rush out. But that was just a whole cool sequence. Like, he's like, I'll pop this ball up there, and then Abo will do this and tie this. How he knew the suitcase or whatever was going to be heavy enough to lift him, I don't know. But then drops it, lifts him up, and then he launches the Pokeball and captures Murkrow. It's a pretty cool little sequence. So, while the kid is rash, he's also good. Joey asks if all those are his Pokemon, and he says they have all been around since he was born, and that the neighbors call the place, like his home, the Poke House, because of all the Pokemon there. Then this is where the main character introduces himself as Gold, so now we know for sure that he's Gold. But I'm not surprised, because red and blue, gold and silver, so it's not surprising that they went with the first one again. Which, of course, is the one you're playing again. I'm always the odd one out.
Silver's pretty, you know? But Gold's number 1, so... Like I said, I'm the star.
So yeah, he introduces himself as Gold, and he's glad the youngster Joey got his bag back. And that's when Joey mentions he wouldn't know what to do if he had lost it, and couldn't give its contents, which are a bunch of Pokeballs with Pokemon inside, to Professor Elm. And in the bag, we see a lot of Johto Pokemon. What is there? There's a bunch in there.
I almost missed this one. There's Hoppip, Chansey, I think the evolved form of Scyther.
Is it Chansey? Or is it Johto evolved like the evolution of Chansey, which comes from Johto, which is
Blissey.
Blissey.
There's a good chance it's Blissey. I can't see it very well. There's a Wooper, a Smeargle. I don't know if I said that right. A Sunkern.
I think you did.
A Pineco. A Blossom.
Oh, Blossom.
I skipped that one because I thought it would come to me, and it did.
And what else is in there? Is there anything else? Was there something near the Blissey?
Near the Blissey? Pineco, the evolved form of Scyther. Smeargle.
Oh, evolved form of Scyther, you said.
Wooper,
Scizor.
Sunkern.
His name is Scizor.
Scizor. And the Blissey.
Or Scizor. I don't know. Because it's like a scissor.
Blissey is in the middle. So, yeah, there's a lot more Blissey.
Sorry.
Hop-Up's the only one who's not near.
But yeah, so basically they're all Johto Pokemon, but Blossom, Blissey, and Scizor are new evolutions of Kanto Pokemon.
Yeah.
So then Gold is upset and says he missed the rest of DJ Mary's song hour as they watch a Hoothoot fly off. And that's the end of that chapter. So then we are thrown into chapter 92. Who gives a Hoothoot? So apparently Joey stayed overnight at Gold's place, and Gold is dressed early to leave somewhere with Joey. Gold's mom remarks that he should have people over more often since it got him up and dressed so early. Then she thanks Joey for going with Gold, and he's just grateful for spending the night. We get a large panel of Gold on his skateboard, and we see his group of Pokemon friends again, which has Drowsy, Poliwag, Sandshrew, which I think is new. Did we have a Sandshrew before?
Yeah.
Oh, did we? Oh, I must have forgot about him before.
He's kind of hard to see in the first one. You only see his back, so it looks like maybe like a pillow on the first.
Oddish, Lickitung, Weedle, and Kakuna. So, confirmation that he has one of each.
I was gonna say there's a Weedle and Kakuna in this one.
Though if we did get rid of Weedle or Kakuna, which would make sense to do, then he would probably have the proper amount of Pokemon for traveling, right? That would make it 6 Pokemon instead of 7.
Getting rid of both?
No, one of them.
Then yeah, that'd make it 6.
Yeah, so he's traveling with a illegal amount, supposedly.
I don't know. People are carrying backpacks full and stuff.
That's a good point. And these aren't really his Pokemon, as he said before, right? They've just been living in the house since he's been born, so, or before he was born, maybe.
Oh, but then later it shows him with an ape on his back, so he'd have to get rid of both.
Yeah. So then we get a flashback to the night before where Joey said he needed to get the bag to Professor Elm, and now that convo is extended. He asks Gold if he knows about Professor Elm, and Gold knows it is their local Pokemon expert. Then Joey drops a bomb and says that he was asked to deliver the Pokemon to Elm by the great Professor Oak himself, and Gold loses it because Oak helps DJ Mary with her radio show. He doesn't care about the Pokemon experts, he just cares about DJ Mary. Joey's a bit annoyed because Oak is, of course, far more than that. There's a shot of DJ Mary talking on the show and naming herself as Professor Oak's assistant as he reveals the secrets of Pokemon. Gold doesn't pay attention to that old guy and just loves DJ Mary's voice. Then he concocts a plan when he asks if Joey's supposed to visit with Oak again. When Joey says yes, Gold decides he's going with because surely he must meet this great professor at least once, and Joey thinks, and is likely right, that Gold is just trying to get an autograph from DJ Mary.
Yeah.
Oh, and we learn that Oak is hanging out in Cherry Grove City, that's also kind of where we find Oak in the game. You remember? Cherry Grove City is the first town we get to, but then we have to go north to that, like there's a branching path upwards.
Well, we start New Barktown, so
yes,
New Barktown's the first one.
Right, but we started New Barktown, but then we travel to Cherry Grove, just like Viridian City, right? In the first game. Except that instead of going north to get to Viridian, we go west to get to Cherry Grove. Then we go north from Cherry Grove, and then it branches off. You can either go to the right path, which takes us to that building, which is where DJ Mary and Oak are, I think. Or at least that's where Oak is. Maybe not DJ Mary. It's where Oak is, at least. Or you can go left, but we couldn't because we were blocked by Pokemon trainers battling. But that's how we eventually get to Violet City. Then we get some scenes of Gold saying hi to people in downtown New Barktown. And he has Krabby and Apom with him as well, which were not in the other group. So we have even more Pokemon. So we're at like 9 Pokemon now. Cookie. There's always room for him, though.
Yeah, it's always.
Now, of course, these Pokemon aren't all in balls, and he's not like an official trainer or anything, so it might be okay. And Joey is awe of Gold's popularity as they're going through town, and then they find a bridge full of people. A guy has a Hoothoot and a bunch of Wooper, and he claims that if a person can catch all the Wooper before time is up, called out by the Hoothoot, then they win. And then we even get a Pokedex entry as Joey explains that Hoothoot have perfect internal clocks, which is when you would think I had figured out something about Hoothoot that I did not figure out until later in the anime episodes. And the Pokedex entry mentions that Hoothoot cocks its head back and forth in rhythm, like a metronome. And I think that's similar to what's actually in the Pokedex in the game, too, but I don't remember. At least in one of them, because we all have different entries. Gold says the guy is using the Hoothoot to cheat and tells Joey to watch. Then, when a kid loses, the guy grins and thinks to himself that it is perfect because he trained the Hoothoot to hoot just when someone is about to win, instead of actually doing it at the proper time. Gold decides he's going to have to do something about it. He tells Joey to watch his back, and he rushes forward and asks if he can try to catch the Wooper.
His backpack, not his back.
Oh, he tells Joey to watch his backpack, and he rushes forward and asks if he can try to catch all the Wooper, and gives an innocent expression as he claims to not be very good with Pokemon. So he's playing the player here. He has Apom look at Hoothoot closely, and there seems to be some confusion on Hoothoot's part, and then the Wooper are released, and Gold uses Apom to help capture the Wooper. The guy tells Hoothoot to do its thing, but then it has confusion symbols around its head, and starts flying circles around the guy, and Gold calls him out on his scam, so he quickly packs up for home. Everyone cheers on Gold, and Joey realizes just why this kid is so popular. But Gold left his backpack off to the side, and Joey isn't paying attention because of all the commotion, and a creepy black tendril of some kind wraps around the backpack strap and steals it. Gold then says it's time to get back to getting to DJ Mary's autograph, and Joey mentions he preferred it when Gold pretended to want to meet Professor Oak. Then they find that the backpack is missing. Joey realizes they might have meant to steal Oak's bag of Pokemon and research notes, but instead ended up absconding with Gold's Pokemon. All of them. Because he apparently put them in Pokeballs at this point, even though they were all following Gold.
I mean, it kind of makes sense because then the guy would believe him that he's not very good with Pokemon.
Sure.
Have a parade following him.
Yep, so now he just has Apom. Gold is upset and figures when they realize their mistake, they will head to Professor Elm's place. And those were all Pokemon he grew up with since he was born, and he won't rest until he gets them all back. Then we cut to the outskirts of New Bark, and Professor Elm is in his lab with a Sentret, and he hears the door slam. He calls out to Joey, saying that was quick, and wondering what Professor Oak had to say, which got me really confused. I was beginning to think that the Pokeballs were maybe not meant for Elm, as Joey had said, since they're trying to take it all to Oak now, and they were filled with Johto Pokemon. I don't know what's going on. It seems, I don't know if there's a translation error, or I'm just not following the plot very well, but whatever. It doesn't matter that much. So anyway, Elm is confused and was sure he heard the door, but goes back to his work, because nobody, responded. And then we see that a mischievous looking individual with long hair is up on the ceiling holding on to lights and has a Sneasel up there as well. Dun dun dun! Oh, and we learned that Apom's move that he used on the Hoothoot, by the way, was called Swagger, which apparently can cause confusion. I don't know for sure, because I don't remember using that move yet in the game, or if we've even found anybody with that move, but there you go. And this long-haired person looks a little familiar from the video game. Remember, we saw somebody spying at the side of Elm's lab. Alright, so then, Chapter 93, Sneasel Sneak Attack. So now this mysterious figure looks like the person that was lingering outside the lab in the game, and also looks like Silver from the manga, who Green was talking to at the end of Volume 7. We didn't get a full view of their face or anything, but the long hair and everything. It's a very similar look. And so, it makes sense this person would be a thief due to Green having also been a thief.
Steals the same type Pokemon, too.
You're right. Interesting. But they had seemed to be working together for a good thing when dealing with the Elite Four, and Green having supposedly turned over a new leaf, so that makes the whole thievery thing a little curious. However, she was still being sneaky and doing tricky things. Just using... Green was. Green.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm just trying to... Like, the connection between Green and this character, I'm just trying to, like, piece together how this person works and if they're actually, like, a villainous entity or not. Because Green wasn't a good person, but became a good person and was using all this trickery and stuff for good. So, is that what Silver is doing? Is what Silver doing for a good reason? For justice? Is Professor Elm evil? I just don't know. Anyway, so Silver tips upside down and yoinks up one of the 3 starter Pokemon. This one being Totodile, just as the one we will see stolen in the anime as well. Totodile gets stolen a lot, I guess. And as you said, it's the same typing starter Pokemon that Green stole from Professor Oak.
Yep. Squirtle and Totodile.
So even more connection between Silver and Green. Silver had also pulled on or pulled tight a glove right before snatching the Pokeball. Then Silver, and I'm guessing at this point this is Silver because it looks like Silver and everything. That's why I'm calling this character Silver. Vanishes, and Elm realizes Totodile is gone. This also then matches up with my Crystal playthrough, since that is the one where I chose Cyndaquil. So of course the rival took Totodile. So the story is matching with my Crystal playthrough so far. When Gold and Joey get there, Gold is thinking the thief of his Pokemon might have been by already and set a trap. Gold is thinking the thief of his bag of Pokemon might have already been at the place and set up a trap. So he wants to be careful. So he goes in through the 2nd floor. Silver is thinking it is time to just slip out a window, and Gold is going in through a window. So then they face one another, and Silver jumps up and Gold comes in. Elm sees Gold and claims he stole the Totodile. A reasonable assumption. And while Gold says he didn't, and Elm argues, Silver drops behind Elm and has Sneasel use Icy Wind. Elm slips into a wall and cries out. Joey rushes in to help and slips and crashes into a wall. Gold and Silver call out commands and have a decent battle, but Gold wields his extendable pool cue. Then he demands his backpack back, which brings Silver a moment of pause. What backpack? So... obviously, Gold assumes Silver stole the backpack of stuff, just like it's stealing a Pokemon from there, but Silver seems confused by this. Then Gold notices a Pokeball missing of 3 and recalls Elm yelling, and then sees the Pokeball in Silver's hand. It all clicks, and Gold sees a shaking Pokeball as Cyndaquil is angry, and so Gold has a partnership with Cyndaquil to get Silver and rescue Totodile. He doesn't know what Cyndaquil is, and it explodes fire from its back, and Gold says its back is as explosive as his own hair, and then he decides to call Cyndaquil Expo. So we got Abo for the Apom, and now Expo for the Cyndaquil, which is like explosion, but with bow at the end. And we'll notice a theme throughout the manga, where every Pokemon that Gold names seems to have bow at the end. Not sure what that's all about, but there you go. So then he gets ready to battle, and we suddenly cut to a group of Team Rocket grunts hanging out by a body of water. They are laughing as they dig through a bag, excited to have stolen the research of Elm and Oak didn't want them to see. But it isn't what they thought. They grabbed the wrong bag, as this one doesn't have the Pokemon they were told would be there. And, apparently, there is an Execute among those balls, which I don't think we saw before.
I told you about the Execute. I was like, and I confused you because I'm like, there are 5 Pokemon to add. And then you're like, is that it?
No, I missed the Execute. I got confused when you said 5, so. Alright. Okay, maybe there was an Execute at some point in Chapter 1. Oh, yeah, there you go. Execute. You're right. So I guess we did see him before, but we hadn't seen him for a while.
That's it.
Anyway, they need to find the real bag, and so they go to look for that kid again and decide to just toss that bag without closing it back up, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens?
Poliwag rolls into the water.
And floats away.
Poor Poliwag.
To be continued. And that's what we cover for our manga this episode. So, you want to hear more? You'll have to tune in next week. And that brings us to the anime. Now, some things we're going to do different this time around, or we're going to try, is One, we're going to give you the episode titles and the Japanese titles, because those can be kind of fun. Sometimes lame. They like exclamation points a lot. But we also want to start tallying up some of the normal or common things and tropes that happen in the anime, such as when Team Rocket changes up their motto, and when Misty drags Brock away from whoever he's got goo eyes for.
When he drags him away, or when he drags him away, or when she drags him away, or when she drags him away by the ear.
Just drags him away. Usually it's by the ear, but sometimes it's by his shirt or backpack. So we'll be trying to keep track of those. If we miss any, you can certainly let us know. And if you have any other ideas of what we should track, go ahead and let us know. After we get kind of established of what we're looking for, I'm going to start going back through the last 2 seasons and start tallying those up as well. And also, I think I want to try and do sort of a ranking as we go through with these episodes. So, obviously with episode 1, that'll be the best episode that we've seen so far. But then when we get to episode 2, we'll have to be like, well, is it better than episode 1 or 2? And put it there. And then if we get to episode 3, is it in between? Is it better than both? Is it worse than both? What our opinions are. Okay. So those are the kind of some of the new things we want to try out this season of Routes Through Pokemon. Alright. Our first episode is episode 119 out of all the episodes, and it's episode 1 of season 3. In America, it's called Don't Touch That Dial, and dial is just apostrophe D-I-L-E, as in the last part of Totodile. Otherwise, it is called Wakaba Town, where the winds of a new beginning blow, or Wakaba Town, Hajamari o Tsugeru Kaze ga Fuku Machi. Kaze, I know, is wind. We've talked about that before because I named one of my Pokemon Kaze. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think so. It's New Bark Town for us, but in them it's called Wakaba, which I'm not sure what that means, but Wakaba. And to start it all off, when we started up the episode, what did we get?
Johto Pokemon? Oh, a new theme song.
Yes, we got a new theme song again.
New stuff like
because technically we are in season 3, because we had Kanto, and then season 2 was Orange Islands, which isn't even part of anything specifically, although they slowly were popping in those Johto Pokemon for us. And now we're officially in Johto, and we have a new theme song. And we will be in Johto for 3 seasons, I believe. But none of them are as long as the first season of Pokemon. But yes, what do you think of the new theme song?
I think it's pretty good. At the end, I think they should just end it when they go, Pokemon Johto, and then they go, and pause for a sec, and go, do, and say Pokemon Johto again.
No, sure.
I think they should end on that picture.
I found that I'm really enjoying the song.
It's not better than the first one.
It is not better than the first one.
But it's pretty good.
But it's a fun song. I really like the song.
It's a good theme song.
Maybe. But it's definitely a good song. Good Pokemon song. And what was interesting, too, about the theme song is that, like, Ash in this, I think this episode, has a line about the journey starting now, and this is called Johto Journeys or whatever. But when he says journey, and with the title Johto Journeys, it makes me think of a different song, which is a lot more recent. The journey starts today. It makes me think of that song. Even though I haven't really watched a lot of that season, I've heard the song a number of times because the kids kept watching it.
Yep. I wish I didn't see so much, but I've seen some of it.
It's all good. But another thing I really liked about the opening of these episodes is just the scenes and the way they play out. Like, it's just exciting and fun to watch. Remember? Mm-hmm. There's a lot of fun. And of course, it's really cool to see a lot of new Pokemon, but they have some of the older ones too.
Who's that Pokemon? Because didn't they have that in the first one?
Who's that Pokemon is in every single episode, but when you watch it in certain ways, it doesn't play that.
Well, I thought Who's That Pokemon was a lot of fun to have.
Yes, we have that in the way we're watching it now on Prime, I believe. We do have the Who's That Pokemon, which is nice. Which is something we will talk about a little bit more as we go forward because of the way it's done. Mm-hmm. So, first off, we now have Ash and Co. lost in the woods again.
Lost in the woods.
Misty blames Ash, and so he decides to put her in charge, which I thought was a clever turnaround. And suddenly she's a lot quieter and is very hesitant to choose a direction. It's easy to blame the person in charge and not, not having to make the decision yourself. All right. Then Ash pokes the bear by giving her a hard time about it, and they start yelling at one another. And so Brock breaks in, shouting himself to tell them that yelling doesn't solve anything. And that they should all be more mature, like him.
Oh, it's Officer Jenny. Oh, it's Joy.
Oh, then there's some strange sound, and the gang go to investigate, and they see a mysterious and beautiful Pokemon in the center of a pond. And who is it?
Suicune.
Yes, it is. And so remember, with Red and Blue, or Red and Green, or Red, Blue, and Green, whatever, those were the games that came first, and then the anime started, and then they came out with Pokemon Yellow to kind of match the anime a little bit, while still just being Red and Blue, but a little different, Mm-hmm. So then we have Gold and Silver, and they decided to do Crystal. And playing through Crystal, I mean, they definitely added things, but I don't think they added things based off the anime specifically in certain situations, at least. But the opening, image of a Pokemon in our video games for Gold and Silver, I think are Ho-Oh and Lugia. I think you have Ho-Oh and I have Lugia.
Yeah.
Because of the colors of them. But with Crystal, it was Suicune. And there's the three dogs, but they purposely focused on Suicune, which is what the anime seems to be focusing on too, which I thought was really interesting.
That's because Water's the main character.
Water's the main character again! Why is Water always the main character?
Because I'm the main character.
Alright. So anyway, they don't know that it's Suicune, of course. They're just like, what is that Pokemon? Who's that Pokemon?
Who's that Pokemon?
And then Suicune rushes off, and the gang fall down a hill. And Jigglypuff comes to the hill behind them, and has fun sliding down it. We also then see Team Rocket walking along through the mist, and we only see their silhouettes for a bit to kind of hide who they are. But I mean, you hear them, and you see the shape of hair that and a mouth size.
We're not as stupid as Ash.
Right. Well, they don't see them in this scene, but yes.
So it doesn't matter.
Right. But anyway, Team Rocket is walking along through the mist, and they seem exhausted, and they fall and find themselves right outside what might be a university, or some kind of school, Meowth says, because a university isn't some kind of school. Come on, Meowth. Anyway, they figure it must have a cafeteria, and so they go to get some food, because they're hungry. Food drives a lot of the characters in the Pokemon anime, I've noticed. They stumble into the building, and a professor is sitting and looking through a scope at something and doesn't even look to see who's arrived. He thinks it is Nurse Joy, just like our other Professor Elm thought Joey was back without noticing.
Yep.
So Elm has a theme, apparently. And so he says that the Pokemon he needed her to look at is wandering around the lab somewhere. Then, that very Pokemon, Totodile, latches onto Meowth's tail. Oh, and at this point, when they were having a conversation, Jessie did a great job at talking like Nurse Joy. I'm pretty sure it was still the Jessie actress, which I don't think is the same as Nurse Joy. But she did a really good job at doing the same kind of inflections of Nurse Joy and the way Nurse Joy talks. It was really good. Ash and Co. are at the top of a cliff where they see a town below and a sign that marks it as New Barktown, where the wind of new beginnings blow. There's a really cool animation of wind blowing through Ash's jacket or vest or whatever he wears as he stares down at the town. It was really coolly animated.
Yeah.
And then we're back to more just normal animation. Then he's ready to hit the Johto League, but his companions stop him, telling him he's supposed to get registered in New Barktown. And Brock is, of course, very insistent because they have to go to the Pokemon Center to register, and of course it must have a Nurse Joy there. Mm-hmm. It's really fun having Brock back.
Yeah, it is.
But when they get to the Pokemon Center, they find only Chansey and a vid-screen recording of Nurse Joy saying she was going to Professor Elm's lab and would be back at 2 at the latest. Only it's now 3:30, which sends Brock into a panic. Ash and Misty decide to wait, but Brock will not hear of it and makes them all go out to investigate because she might be in danger.
Of course he does.
Then they find a lot of police cars and an Officer Jenny at the lab, and Brock tries to flirt with her. Then they mention they're looking for the lab, and they find out that's exactly where they are. So they go inside, without permission. And Jenny was too slow to say anything, because she was still flabbergasted by Brock's flirtations. There they find Joy, laying into Professor Elm for not paying attention. Elm is kind of annoying, and thinks himself better than Oak, his teacher once upon a time. So he learned from Professor Oak, and now he thinks he's better than him.
Doesn't every student think they're better than their teacher?
No, some students are wiser than that.
Yeah, that's true.
I just wish you were.
My older brother once even said, the student has become the teacher to my mom. When we were talking about something. And because she was confused. And he said the wrong answer, actually.
That's hilarious.
And then she's like, wait, no, I was right. It was kind of funny.
Yeah, it's hilarious. He does explain about the 3 starters in Johto, though, and mentions that the stolen Totodile was supposed to be picked up by a girl the next day. He also has a Cyndaquil and shows a picture of a Chikorita who was already picked up. Footprints were found, and they made a plastic cast of them or something, so Jenny has Growlithe smell it to get on the trail.
What? That doesn't make any sense.
No, it does not. Because it doesn't have any of the scent then, right? Or very less anyway. Just sniff the footprints themselves. And then trail them.
Yeah.
And honestly, I don't know if sniffing the footprints will do a whole lot in general. But still. Well, I guess with Meowth it would. Okay. I'll give him that. But not with the cast. Alright. Meanwhile, Jessie is having a heck of a time because the Totodile has apparently moved on from Meowth's tail to latching onto her gorgeous hair and won't let go. Then she and Meowth argue about who gets to call the boss, while James just goes into the phone booth and starts making a phone call to the boss. Only he can't remember the area code, so he asks his teammates, who then get mad that he was trying to call and fight him instead. Ridiculous.
But it was kind of funny, like, they're arguing and he just, like, stands there and watches. Then just kind of walks towards it and slowly gets in and starts, like, very slowly pressing buttons to start calling or anything. Like, so slow and just like...
Well, it's because he couldn't remember the number.
But it was hilarious.
It was hilarious. So then Jenny, Ash, and company arrive. There's a fight where Ash gets to use all 4 starters from Kanto, including a moment where they all combine their powers. And so when I say all 4 starters, of course that means Pikachu as well.
Yes.
And then they did a cool combo power, which we've seen before.
In Smash Bros?
Oh, yeah, they do that. The 3 do that, not the 4. But no, I was referencing the manga. The end of the yellow stuff. The 3 starters in their final evolutions shoot up, and then Pikachu gets it all and does the mega thing. And
yep.
So,
I remember.
I thought that was kind of cool. So more connections there. Team Rocket says their motto, but their opening lines are a bit different in response to Jenny and how she won't take them in. So Jessie says,
prepare for trouble, you can't take us in.
And James says, make that double, we'll fight and we'll win. And then they launch into the rest of the regular motto. So that was a fun little change in the intro, which is one of our tally mark things, just so you all know. And then, right after they finish the motto, Officer Jenny goes, would you repeat that? Which I thought was hilarious, because we've all heard it so many times. Oh man, it was a good one. Anyway, they say something about how they're about to get a blast or something after the fight is done, and then they're shot off, and say that they would have to tell the boss that Team Rocket is messing up again. Ding! So they changed out their outro as well, which is always fun. With everything taken care of, and Totodile returned, Ash goes to the Pokemon Center and contacts Oak. But then Elm takes over and shows he's kind of scummy because he does suggest he is or will be better than Oak, but corrects himself to say just as good as, when he really thinks he is better or intends to be. Anyway, Joy takes Ash's Pokedex and he gets registered. Now it's time to head to Violet City. And maybe, someday, he'll get there. Because it takes forever. Oh, and we got a Who's That Pokemon this episode, which was Chikorita. And we've learned that in at least these first 5 episodes, that little segment gives us a clue about the next episode.
It's so much fun.
It is fun. It's episode 120, or episode 2 of season 3, the Double Trouble Header, or the Japanese title is Ruki no Chikorita, which is the Rookie's Chikorita. Because you and I have learned that no usually is the possession. Which is interesting because then Chikorita is the same name in Japan and America.
Just pronounced with their accent.
Well, sure, it's pronounced with their accent, and it might even be spelled a little differently, but it's still like the same thing, which is interesting. Before that, though, let's look at our tally for our categories that are covered in that episode. So one of our categories is Jumping Jigglypuff, which is anytime Jigglypuff shows up in an episode.
That's awesome.
And we did see Jigglypuff in that episode. I think technically twice. I think there was a shot early in the episode too, and then when it fell down the hill. Or maybe at the end too.
When it
So
fell
maybe
down
3.
the hill was early in the episode.
Oh, I know, but I mean like really early. When they're lost in the woods and stuff. Before they see the sweet Suicune. But it might be at the end of the episode too. I don't remember. Anyway. Then we have Babysitting Brock. Brock was flirting with Officer Jenny, and that is where Misty drags Brock off the scene to get him away from her. And we just covered Interesting Intro, which is when Team Rocket changes the intro of their motto. And we have Jessie's Hair, which I don't have a name for yet. I want something clever, but I'm not sure what it is. So if you come up with something, listeners, or Ruby, for any time that Jessie has some kind of incident and concern about her hair. Like, you know, when she got it all chopped off. But this one is when Totodile latches on. Because she's all about her looks in general, but she's very particular about her hair, it seems. And Distracted Pokemon, which again, I don't have necessarily a good name for yet, so we'll have to come up with something. But that's when a Pokemon comes out and is distracted from doing what it's supposed to, which is pretty much anytime Victory Bell shows up. Because yes, as soon as Victory Bell came out, it ate James once again. We're off again, which is anytime that Team Rocket changes up what they're saying as they're blasting off again. And this time they said that they are messing up again. And then catching catchphrases. Anytime that they reference things that they say regularly in the show or the Pokemon catchphrase itself, like gotta catch 'em all. And in this one, we had Team Rocket talking about how they're in for a blast right before they blasted off again. So those were the tally marks that we got that time around. Now, so far, what's your favorite episode of the Johto Journeys?
Oh, it's kind of tough between the first one and the first one. But I think I'm going to go with the first one.
Sure, that makes sense. All right, now, we will move on to the Double Trouble Header. Ash and Co. start their journey to Violet City, and while walking along, they come across a girl named Casey dressed in baseball attire, training her Chikorita against a Rattata. So we can kind of assume that this might be the girl that already picked up her Chikorita the day before that Elma's talking about. Like, there's some continuity there. I like it. Ooh, maybe we should have a tally for continuity. I don't know. Anyway.
It's got a lot already.
We do. So she wields something that seems to double as a megaphone and a baseball bat, and is playing the part of a baseball announcer. When Ash shows up, she has a very determined, almost angry-looking expression and charges toward Ash. But then she stops to admire Pikachu. She grabs Pikachu and cuddles him, which is never a good idea. But then she says she wants to be shocked by Pikachu when Ash tries to warn her. Ash still tries to stop it all, and of course, he gets caught up in the shock as well. Casey learns that she should have listened to Ash.
Yeah.
Well, it turns out the reason she was so excited is that she really likes yellow Pokemon with stripes. Specifically.
Well, she's wearing a jersey with
yellow and black stripes.
Yep.
But it looks like it's not a jersey. It's like the baseball shirt type thing.
Yeah.
I guess maybe it's considered a jersey, but it's not what I think of when I think of jersey. But maybe it's a jersey.
That's not what I think of either, but I thought that's what it was called.
It might be. I could be wrong. I don't. Sports balls, I'm not very good at the lingo necessarily. All right. So, but the reason she likes them specifically, she likes Pikachu, Beedrill, and Electabuzz. And Electabuzz specifically because of her and her family's devotion to the Electabuzz baseball team. When Ash finds out that she is an Electabuzz team fan, he mentions that they finish last every season. And then when she defends them, he makes some other disparaging remarks about the team, which really gets her fired up, and she finally challenges Ash to a battle, which sounds just like Ash would do.
Yeah.
Ash says that he's an experienced trainer, so maybe not such a good idea, so that it may not be such a good idea, but she insists, so he obliges. Misty notes that Casey is just as stubborn as Ash, because, I mean, like, remember when he kept pestering Prima or Lorelai for a match?
Yep.
It's the same kind of thing, right? Brock tells Ash to go easy on her because she is a rookie, and Misty says something else that I don't remember what she said exactly.
Maybe it's because he wanted... Maybe she remarked, like, Brock only wants him to go easy on her because she's cute or something.
No, it's not that, because they purposely do not have him remark about her specifically being cute in this episode, in English at least.
Probably because she's younger, it looks.
Exactly. He mentioned something about wanting her to have an older sister by the end of the episode. And I think in the Japanese version, it's actually says something more like, she'll be great or cute or something in another so many years or something, which is a little creepier. Brock's a little bit creepy.
I mean, she's like 10 and what's he, like 13?
I'm not sure. He could be older than that, though. Maybe 15, 16. I don't know.
There's some people with a 10-year difference, so.
Yeah, but that's when they're older.
Still, that would be creepy if a 20-year-old crushed on a 10-year-old.
Exactly. But what I do remember with Misty's comment is that Ash's response is more to Misty and not Brock, because Misty doesn't say something about going easy. But she's not necessarily saying, like, tear her to pieces either. But anyway, what happens is Ash brings out Charizard, which really shocks Brock after what he said.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's not really going easy on anyone.
No. Especially with Chikorita.
Right? But Casey sends out Pidgey first, and it gets Ash to start reminiscing to his beginnings. Because that was the first Pokemon he tried to catch.
Yeah.
And it did not go well.
No.
But Casey wants to get the match started. So Pidgey dives down and pokes right into Charizard and bounces off of him. He huffs and sends Pidgey back. Or maybe it didn't bounce off of him. He just maybe flaps or huffs at it and knocks it down. I don't know. Because Rattata, I think, comes and bounces off Charizard, and then he's out. So finally, it's up to Chikorita. And Ash does go easy on her. And that means Charizard does too, because Ash tells him to. So Charizard shoots some fire and barely hits the leaf at the top of Chikorita's head, lighting it on fire. And then Chikorita is out. Ash tries to congratulate Casey, but she is devastated and runs off. She thinks about how her family will be so disappointed in her. She flashes back to her family all saying goodbye, and one of them is definitely voiced by Professor Oak, but making his voice sound a little bit more elderly. But here's the thing. They all say they only ever root for the Electabuzz, and now they have another hero to root for in Casey. And we already learned that Electabuzz always loses. So, really, I think her family is going to be okay that she lost her first match. Don't you?
Yeah.
They obviously don't care about the people winning.
Mm-hmm.
And we did learn that they keep on swinging and don't give up. So really, if she doesn't want to disappoint them, she just can't give up.
Yeah.
Anyway, as she laments, we get some Electabuzz fans arriving. Only they aren't really Electabuzz fans, are they?
Mm-hmm.
Well, they could be. Because they do have something in common with the team, which is always losing. Because it's really Team Rocket! And they claim that Ash is a cheater, and she should rematch him. Because if they make up some law that or a rule that you're not supposed to use a Charizard in a match against a new person or something. And he broke that rule, but that's a made-up rule.
And they really just, like, talked bad about him and said he cheated about a bunch of things.
Which, during it all, though, James kept, like, saying, just like us, and Jesse's like, knock it off! It was really funny. So then they end up at a baseball field, and Casey sends out Chikorita again, and this time it's against Ash's Pikachu. Brock cheers on Casey, and Misty is like, hey, we're supposed to cheer on Ash. But Brock says that he likes to root for the underdog, and it just so happens that it's usually Ash who is the underdog.
Mm-hmm.
Missy seems to think that's a good point, and also ends up cheering for Casey. And of course Ash is like, well, some friends they are. Anyway, shenanigans with some electronic Team Rocket batting machine shows up, goes for Chikorita, and Pikachu tries to save the day, and so they both get hit far off toward Team Rocket, who then do their motto, which was laced with all sorts of baseball-related things. And that's one thing I really liked about this episode, is there were... Pokemon has a lot of puns in general, but this episode was so full of baseball puns. Like, it was so many puns, the whole episode, and it was hilarious. But, specifically...
Attention, twerps, it's prepare for trouble day.
But you're both out, which makes it a double play.
To protect our team from devastation.
To excite our side with a big ovation.
To strike out the evils of truth and love.
To extend our reach with a baseball glove.
Jesse.
James.
Team Rocket throws their baseballs at the speed of light.
Strike 3. We won, Jesse.
James!
Jesse, that's right. So yeah, they changed their intro and the whole model this time around. So then Meowth activates electronic pitching machines and Casey cowers, which makes sense. You would not want to be hit by these baseballs flying at you constantly. Ash has a hilarious moment where he talks about not giving up and seeing it through and taking whatever comes at them. And he's hit by multiple baseballs and totally knocked to the ground. Then Casey starts batting all the balls back, and Ash brings out some Pokemon out to help, and eventually, Team Rocket is striking out again! Ding! So that was all a lot of fun. Ash and Casey end on a good note and talk about maybe seeing one another in the Johto League, which probably will never happen, because, they never follow up these things.
Not never, sometimes, on a rare occasion.
And the group continues on their way. And then this episode's Who's That Pokemon segment was Heracross. Last week's was Chikorita, and which Pokemon was featured? Chikorita. So can we expect Heracross next? You bet.
I wouldn't say you could expect it, right after. Maybe they only did that once. You don't know if they're going to do it twice.
Possibly. Now, also, I noticed that they had a scoreboard during their battle in the baseball field, Mm-hmm. And the scoreboard sections usually have, the team letter or symbol or something, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But this one had an S and an N on it, which neither Casey or Ash start with those letters, right? So it could have just been a fluke. But I also recalled that Ash's name in Japanese is, do you recall?
Satoshi.
That's right. And so I'm like, maybe it does have their names in it, but just in Japanese. So I went a little digging, and apparently Casey's name is Nanako. So it was Satoshi versus Nanako. So I thought that was kind of cool. And then that wraps up that episode. So we move on to episode 129, or season 3, episode 3. A Sappy Ending, or Gekitotsu Herakurosu Tai Kairosu, or Crash Heracross versus Kaelios.
I'm guessing Kaelios is pincer? Is that
it's probably actually Kai. Oh wait, no, it's Kairosu. So yeah, Kaelios. I don't know, but yes, I'm guessing that's Pincer's Japanese name as well. Well, Heracross is the same name in either language, it seems.
Mm-hmm.
Well, sort of. Herakurosu, but that's pretty much Heracross.
They just have their accent.
So, we're still in the woods. The gang end up finding a tree covered in Heracross. Just like the Who's That Pokemon moment last episode.
Mm-hmm.
They want to catch one, but some ranger guy warns them they could upset the balance of the forest. Then they learn that the Heracross chew through the tree to get to sap, and then Butterfree come and eat the sap as well. But they can't chew through the tree, so the Butterfree need the Heracross.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, there are a lot of dead trees around, and they learn there is an invasive species.
Well, originally they think that the Heracross are killing all the trees.
True, but the ranger guy explains things that Pinsir, or apparently Kylios, live in the woods on the other side of a ravine, but they've been coming over and messing with the Heracross side lately. So some Pinsir show up and the Heracross flee rather than fight the Pinsir, but then there's one Butterfree and Heracross still in the tree. The group thinks that the Heracross is protecting the Butterfree. Ash uses his Bulbasaur to help out, and Heracross seems to be impressed and inspired by Bulbasaur and Pikachu's actions. But then Heracross, when he gets down, tries to suck pollen right out of Bulbasaur's bulb. It isn't appreciated.
Well, it's appreciated by us.
Well, yeah. Bulbasaur, very cranky about it. And so then the gang suspects that Heracross was still in the tree not to protect the Butterfree, but just to eat more sap, despite the fact that Pinsir were coming. It just liked its food.
Yeah.
It was driven by... It was food motivated, just like the gang. So then Ash and Co. decide to investigate the situation with the ranger guy about the Pinsir invading and stuff, and on the way they find Heracross following them. Bulbasaur isn't pleased about it and drives him back. Then, when they get to the ravine, they find that the bridge has been cut by humans, and that the Pinsir have found their own way across. Then there is some munching on a tree behind them, and once again it's Heracross. Oh, and by the by, Misty is having such a great time in these woods because she loves her bug Pokemon so much.
Just loves
And by having a good time, I'm saying a terrible time. And she is the one to point out that Heracross was probably just eating instead of protecting the Butterfree when they found that out. And the others agree, but she's the one pointing that stuff out because she is negative towards bug Pokemon.
Except for Venonat, because he's
not
a bug Pokemon. With his buggy eyes, huge buggy eyes and little antennas.
Yeah. But yeah, I thought it was interesting because it wasn't really, like, her suggestion that Heracross wasn't actually being a hero when they all thought he was at first. Like, and everybody kind of goes along with it, her suggestion. It didn't, like, click into my head that it was her specifically being prejudiced against bugs to lead her to that conclusion. As we start to figure out as we continue through here. Because usually they're very overt and, like, in your face, like, oh, well, she's making bad assumptions based off of her hatred or, you know, like characters do or whatever in cartoons.
Yeah.
But this one was much more subtle, which was cool because it took me a minute to figure it out. So anyway, she of course gets after Heracross for eating while they're trying to save the trees. But it turns out Heracross might have been doing it to knock the tree down as a bridge, because it lands right across where the bridge was and the gang can cross. But Misty decides to wait on the other side, until Togepi rushes off on its own and she doesn't manage to stop it from doing so, and nearly falls, forcing Misty onto the tree to catch it. Which, hey, she did save Togepi, so that's something.
At least it wasn't Pikachu's job this time.
Right. Then, when they get across, Heracross stops midway on the tree to stop and eat some sap out of the tree. And Misty again says he wasn't making a bridge. He was just looking for food again. But, if that were true, he could have left the tree standing, because he didn't knock down other trees in his eating before. Then they find the Pinsir home at the largest tree inside that section of the forest, across the ravine. Inside the tree is the largest Pinsir they've ever seen, only it isn't. As the ranger points out, it is not a Pinsir, but only a robot made to look like one.
Can't you tell the difference between a robot and a Pinsir?
Well, it's hidden up in the trees, and it's designed to look like a Pinsir.
So, these people are so stupid!
And it turns out this robot Pinsir belongs to...
let me guess. Is it Misty?
Team Rocket.
Oh,
Misty
really?
owning a
that.
bug form of robot. And it's stealing all the sap. Team Rocket, after another modified motto, which goes like...
Prepare for trouble while we're in the wood.
Make it double, we're up to no good. So we have another interesting intro that leads into the typical Team Rocket motto. So then, after all that, they explain how they had been so hungry as they were wandering through woods and came upon the sap and thought they could monetize it. But of course, this is what is causing all the Pinsir to mess with the wrong half of the woods. So, the gang isn't going to stand for it. They get into a battle, and then Team Rocket uses the robot to fight back, and Heracross saves the day by rushing in to the awesome electric guitar gym battle music. He tosses it into the air while Team Rocket breaks the controls fighting. Oh, and when James brings out Victory Bell this time, he is confused he didn't get eaten because it was eating sap. When James gets after Victory Bell, then he gets eaten. Lickitung also ends up licking the sap. That's why the robot is used, and Bulbasaur can't beat it, and Pikachu's Thunder Shocks just charge it up. So yeah, Heracross flings it in the air. And then it crashes down by Team Rocket, and it explodes, sending Team Rocket bugging off again. Ding! They get Heracross back to its other Heracross group in the other side of the woods, and everything is settled. But then, while the gang is walking down a path, Heracross comes up to them, and they realize that it wants to join, and so Ash catches Heracross and says, "Heracross chose me!" And now we have Ash catching a Pokemon 3 episodes into the season, just like the first season with Caterpie.
Yeah, that's kind of fun.
Oh, and Misty warmed up to Heracross at the end, saying he was a hero. Also, I think that Ash technically threw the ball to catch Caterpie in episode 2, but he actually catches it in the following episode, which is episode 3, in the first season. And then the Who's That Pokemon in this episode is Donphan, which I have to take this moment to explain that to realize and admit and apologize that I've been mispronouncing Donphan all through these episodes. I have so often called him Doniphan. I don't know why I've added that extra syllable in the middle there, but it's just Donphan. So if I've annoyed all of you throughout all this and you've been screaming at the podcast being like, "It's Donphan, you idiot!" I'm
You're
sorry.
the one who gets so annoyed by things that's pronounced a syllable different or something. Not generally other people. It's you. You get annoyed at it.
I don't think it's just me. But anyway, we can likely assume that Donphan is coming in the next episode. Also, another thing that's been going on with the Johto Journeys is that every episode ends with a karaoke-mon, so there's always a song, and this one has the song of Jigglypuff, which is just Jigglypuff singing us to sleep.
So we all pretend to go to sleep and stuff. It's so fun.
Yep, and I think I forgot to do the tallies for last episode. Let's do tallies for these 2 episodes. Oh, we forgot to rate too. Alright, so for the Double Trouble header, we have Friendly Fire, and that's when their own Pokemon damage the people. So like when Pikachu shocks Ash, which happens a lot, or Charizard breathes fire on his face.
Oh, that makes sense. I'm like, when do the Pokemon damage each other?
So, Pikachu electrified Casey and Ash when Ash tried to help. Catching catchphrases. So there's the electric fans in the stands at the baseball stadium that are programmed to cheer or whatever, and they say, "Gotta catch 'em all. Gotta catch 'em all." So that's the theme, or like the catchphrase of the show. So, and then we covered an interesting intro and a modified motto, and we're off again because they strike out again, right? So we got all those. So we technically now have 2 for catching catchphrases, 2 for interesting mottos, and 2 for we're off again. Then in a sappy ending, we got Gotta Catch 'Em All, which is when, the gang actually catches a new freaking Pokemon. Which doesn't happen as often as you would think it would. So we have 1 for Ash catching Heracross. Broken bridges, I've noticed, is a big theme in Pokemon. They find a bridge, it's most likely going to be broken, like the exploding one in the Voltorb episode.
Interesting.
So, we have a broken bridge, because someone cut the rope bridge.
Well, their one bridge wasn't complete, so... do we count? Like, in one of the seasons, it wasn't complete. Except for the bike path.
Oh, sure, I forgot about that one.
So, would you count
I would
that
count
as a
that one,
broken
too.
bridge?
Because then they said it was complete for just bikes or something.
Yeah.
But it wasn't even complete for that. They had to jump over.
Wasn't it rising?
Well, maybe it was rising. I don't know, but nonetheless.
No, because they both had to jump. Yeah, probably.
I don't know. Doesn't matter.
Completed.
The point is...
Because they went up.
I would count that one.
Yeah.
So then we also have Togepi Trouble. Anytime Togepi wanders into a problem. And this one, almost falling off a tree to its death. Then we have another interesting intro.
When they changed the whole motto?
No, interesting intro is just when they changed the intro of their motto.
Oh, I thought you were saying that was another topic.
And then we have Distracted Pokemon. Now here I have to ask, do we count just anytime a Pokemon is distracted in an episode is 1, so it doesn't matter how many, or for each one. So in this one, could be 3 different marks because we had 3 Pokemon get distracted.
Well, Victory Bell counts as 2 because he got distracted.
By the sap and ate James.
Yes.
And then Lickitung in the sap.
And then Lickitung in the sap. And then Heracross.
Oh, crossing the bridge?
What? Yeah. Huh?
You're talking about when Heracross was trying to cross the bridge and stopped to eat?
Yes.
Okay.
So that would count as
So I guess that's 4 then.
Yeah, 4.
So we got 4 distracted Pokemon, so we're at a total of 5 for that one.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're off again, because they bugged out again.
Yep.
Now, Double Trouble Header. Is that better or worse to you than Hold That, or Don't Change That Dial, or whatever it was?
What?
Did you like...
Oh, you're talking about the episodes?
Yeah.
I think I like the one with Casey better.
You liked Casey better? I did too, just because of all the puns, mostly, I think. It was just hilarious. And I kind of liked Casey, even though, like, she was kind of annoying-ish, like Ash, but she was kind of a fun character. A good foil for Ash, I thought. Alright, so we're both agreed there. So, then what about the Heracross episode? Is that better than Double Trouble Header?
Yes, this one's my favorite.
Oh,
and
this one is your favorite.
I'm gonna explain. Heracross wasn't... I don't feel like it was exactly highlighted with how much we said, but it's hard to describe it, but he was really fun in the episode. You kind of have to see it to understand, but he was
he's kind of got like
fun.
a earnestness to him. Like he's like wanting to do the right thing and be with them and stuff, but he's also like, hey, I also want to eat my sap and, the pollen out of Bulbasaur's bulb. And he's just like a friendly look to him.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with you. I like Heracross a lot, actually. And what's funny to me is I've seen Heracross a bunch in like Arceus and Pokemon Go and stuff, and I'm like, I have no interest in this Pokemon. He just looks like a giant beetle, and I don't care. And then I see him in this episode, and I'm like, okay, I kind of like Heracross.
Because I feel like we just like jumped, like there's no reason for him to come with Ash, but he's a really cool Heracross. So yeah, this one's my favorite.
All right, so far it's 3-2-1 then is our ranking. A sappy ending, then Double Trouble Header, then Don't Touch That Dial. Interesting that the first episode is the worst so far. Not that it was bad.
No, it was good.
All right.
Did you...
I agree. I liked Heracross a lot. And again, it was that subtlety too with Misty where I didn't even catch it like the first time because I watched it a couple times. And I was like, "Oh, wait a second. He was just being a good guy and Misty's prejudiced against bugs is what caused the problems. Like, what made them think differently. Not even caused a problem, just made them think that it was food motivation."
Yep.
All right. So then we move on to episode 122, or season 3, episode 4. Roll on, Pokemon, or Donphan no Tani, which translates as Donphan's Valley, which I'm guessing Tani means valley then.
Yep, probably.
All right, so still on their way to Violet City. They keep mentioning it in the episode too, which is what makes it even worse. It's like, okay, just don't even talk about it.
We're gonna hear still a lot on their way to Violet City.
And they're also still in some woods. They come upon a Donphan, and Ash and Brock both want to catch it and get into a fight over it.
Brock has his reasons for wanting to catch it.
What's his reason?
Oh, because Ash pulls out his Pokedex, and the Donphan in the picture, their tusks look bigger than the one that's not in the picture. And so, Brock's like, I'll take care of it best. I want to catch it.
Yeah, like he can raise it best because it's a young Donphan.
Mm-hmm.
And Ash already caught something recently.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I think it should still be Ash's.
I mean, whoever gets into whatever. I don't care. I don't remember who saw it first or whatever, so.
Ash.
Did he? Well, then it should be Ash's problem.
And he claimed it.
So, they chase down the Donphan, and they end up running into Rochelle, who was already the trainer of the Donphan and thought that they were trying to steal her Donphan. And then Ash is like, well, we didn't know, right, Brock? And Brock's like, I tried to tell him that it must be trained by somebody. Because he, of course, is once again smitten right off the bat with this girl.
Trained by someone with your beautiful
right. Oh, but before all of this, I forgot that there was some crumbling rock that gets Ash and their attention. And we see Team Rocket is on some of that rock and make and they make amusing rock and roll puns before they fall to what would theoretically be their death. Again. Then a piece of the rock is about to crush them, and it looks like Team Rocket is... BAM! Crushed by the rock.
Could keep tallies for how many times they should be dead. Any character, really. I think it's stupid that people keep being like, you were trying to steal my Pokemon.
Sure.
Even though I left it alone out in the wild where you catch Pokemon.
So then Brock notices the amberite necklace that the girl is wearing. She warns them not to try to catch any other Donphan in those parts because they all belong to her. Then Ash tries to get a battle in, but her young Donphan has seen enough action for the day. So he tries for tomorrow, but she's gone. Like he has to do it tomorrow, but she's already left. Then we see Team Rocket dressed in Forest Ranger outfits to not raise suspicion while they look for amberite after Meowth got some info that Donphan can sniff the stuff out. So they want to get a Donphan and try to find some. Then we see Rochelle teaching her little Donphan how to sniff it out, and Team Rocket shows up and steals the Pokemon. Team Rocket demands the Donphan start finding some amberite. Rochelle is calling out for the Pokemon and runs into Ash and company. They ask her what happened, and she describes the crooks. So they all know it is Team Rocket, and of course are going to help. Back to Team Rocket, the Donphan marks a location, and they start digging.
Well, Jessie was really mean to the Donphan, and like, you need to start looking now. And then James is like, you have to be nice to it, and gave him like a pile of grass.
Yeah.
Jessie was so impatient with him finishing his
Jessie
grass.
Jessie is always super mean and impatient.
Yeah, that's true.
James has always been the nicer of the two.
Well, he's like, I want to say thank you for them saving my life.
Yep. Meanwhile, Brock tries to use Zubat to find the Donphan, but it doesn't work, and so Rochelle blows a whistle, which calls up her herd, because her herd heard, which is a line that Ash uses, I think, and I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that's kind of funny.
So she has the Donphan look for the baby Donphan. Team Rocket is exhausted and have had no success in finding any amberite in the pit they're digging. Then Donphan smells his herd. They show up, and Ash and them aren't far behind. So then Team Rocket has another modified intro to their motto again.
When Team Rocket's around, be prepared for trouble.
Multiply by 2 and make it double. And then, of course, the rest of the motto. And then Victory Bell comes out and eats James again. I think this might be the first time Misty calls out Poliwag for a battle, besides the episode where she gets Poliwag or whatever.
Well, Misty and Brock rarely battle with Ash, so.
That's true, although they did in the first episode too, I think, didn't they? Or was it just all Ash's Pokemon?
They might have. They just rarely do.
Yeah. No, I hear you. So it's cool to see Poliwag show up. Then Victory Bell is thrown back and accidentally ends up eating James a second time. It seemed that most of these episodes in this season, Team Rocket has like a conversation as they're flying through the air before they say something about the blasting off again, which I thought was interesting, and they do it again here. But anyway, they do say they are blasting off again. So this is the first actual blasting off we've had this season.
Still a little off, though. I
wouldn't
tally
it. No, it does not go on the tally, for sure.
It's just a little off stuff.
Then Rochelle shows off the oldest Donphan's ability to find amberite, as the young one hasn't quite learned yet. Then Ash challenges Rochelle to a battle again, and this time she accepts, because that's what he asks for as a thank you. Because she was like, "What is there anything I could do to thank you," or whatever. Mm-hmm. So she uses the Donphan that just found the amberite, and Ash uses Heracross. Heracross gets knocked into a tree and starts eating sap off the tree, but then he comes back. Heracross loses, but it was a good fight and good training for Heracross. And then this episode's Who's That Pokemon is Hoothoot, who has also become a favorite Pokemon of mine. All right, so our tallies this time are... I was thinking we might do a tally for we're off again this one, because they said, looks like Team Rockets, and then they're crushed by a rock early in the episode. You think that one counts?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Okay, we'll count that one. If you guys don't like it, you can argue with me, and maybe I'll strike it, but for now we're counting it. We have another babysitting Brock episode, because he's flirting with Rochelle, and Misty drags him off by the ear, which is Ruby's favorite way for Misty to drag Brock off. We had an interesting intro, which we quoted for you. And we had 2 distracted Pokemon.
Yes.
We had Victory Bell eating James. The second time wasn't really distraction, it was an accident.
I mean, Victory Bell probably liked it, but...
Yeah, who knows? I don't even know if Victory Bell likes it. Like, he's just weird. I don't know. And then Heracross latching onto the tree during the battle.
Especially because Victory Bell just screams.
Ah!
Yeah, that's his sound. It screams.
It's so funny. All right, so Roll On Pokemon. Where do you rank that episode? I can tell you right now,
Good.
it is not my favorite one out of the bunch.
No, it's not my favorite. It was pretty good. I might put it at 3rd, though.
Above the Totodile episode?
Everything's above the Totodile episode.
I mean, so far.
Oh.
Because
I like this episode. It was pretty good.
You like it better than the Totodile episode? That's the question. So you're saying you like it less than Double Trouble Header and its happy ending, which I certainly agree with. But is this one better than Totodile and the latched hair and the cool wind blowing when he sees the thing?
I don't know. Why do you know I'm not good at making decisions. Why do you do this to me?
Because this is fun. It's fun to rank things.
I give up. You win.
I didn't say anything. I can't win.
I don't know.
What do you like about this episode?
It's just a good episode. Maybe the Totodile one. Let's do the Totodile one is better than this, I guess.
That's the right decision.
I thought there was no right decision.
There isn't, but I agree with that decision. So therefore, it's right, because my ideas are always right, even if there's no right and wrong. I'm just kidding. Yeah. I mean, I liked it just fine, but it is my least favorite of the ones we've watched so far. But that brings us to our last one. Episode 123, or Season 3, Episode 5. Illusion, Confusion, or Ho-Ho to Ayashi Mori. Ho-Ho and the Mysterious Forest. Mori being forest. I learned that from something else before, so. Alright. So this time, the narrator claims that Ash and company are well on their way to Violet City. But in reality, we're like a third of the way. But you know what else? They are still in woods! Always woods!
But it seems the woods are always changing.
Or forest, sorry. This one's a forest.
Oh. But it seems the forest/woods are always changing. They're always in a new one.
It does seem that way. Alright, so then they find out that they're lost again. It gets to be late, and they are still lost, and it is a creepy forest. Weird ghost-like sounds echo through the trees, and some of the trees suddenly have scary faces, scaring Ash and them all around the woods. And then Hoothoot shows up, with eyes that shine a red light all around and make all the scary-faced trees vanish. And then we hear Gary, who explains that everything they saw and heard was an illusion, and Hoothoot sees through it. We then learn from the Pokedex that Hoothoot's eyes can see clearly through everything, even the darkest night. And I don't know if that's actually in the Pokedex for sure. The metronome stuff, or like, you know, whatever, I think that might be, but I don't remember this one specifically. But I could just be remembering wrong, too. Nonetheless, I think it's a cool ability. Gary explains that they need Hoothoot to get out of there, and he sounded a little like his old obnoxious Gary self, where he's like, I can't believe you haven't figured this stuff out, kind of thing. But he does explain to them what they need, at least, and warns them they'll be lost forever if they don't get one. So Ash and company go looking for Hoothoot.
I just thought it was kind of stupid not to stick with Gary.
Right? That's what I would have done.
I'm like, even if you don't like him, or even if he doesn't want you to follow, what's he gonna do?
Right? He could try to lose you, but you might as well try because you're already lost anyway.
Right? Stupid.
Anyway, they find a Hoothoot, and it seems to like Misty. It does not like Ash. It just pecks at his head and rushes off. The gang follow and come to a stone archway, and then they continue following and pass by a stone with an image of a Hoothoot on it. And this is the moment where I saw the clock. I had never realized up until that point that Hoothoot's eyes are clocks. With his, like, eyebrow things being the clock hands and the little dashes, the number symbols, you know? Yep. I don't know why I never saw it up until now. Even with the manga, like, and Pokedex entries there suggesting it. I never saw it until that very moment. And it's also what made me like Hoothoot even more. Because I think I even named my Hoothoot TikTok or something. Because they made a reference to keeping perfect time or something in the video game. And yet, I still didn't see it. Oh, I am a fool. Alright. So then Hoothoot attacks Ash again when they don't stop following it. And then Hoothoot stops and stands by the beautiful Hagatha. Although they think it is an illusion at first, as it is too ugly and scary to be real. She then explains they need her to get out of the forest, and she has a home in the woods and has a business where she loans out the Hoothoot, which get people out of the forest. But the Hoothoot she has left, and the one they followed, and who's not been helpful before, it has never guided a single traveler safely through the woods. So that one's kind of a defective Hoothoot, apparently. But it's the only option Ash and them have if they don't want to wait until tomorrow. And Ash, of course, would rather risk getting lost in the creepy woods forever than just wait until the morning, because Gary's already ahead of him. Oh, Ash.
Gary's gonna get more ahead of you if you get lost.
Right? So Ash claims that Hoothoot just needs a good trainer, like him. But that Hoothoot only gets along with pretty girls because Hagatha is the one who raised it.
But didn't Ash say something about how it must only get along with ugly girls or something?
Well, so Misty... First of all, I think Misty should be insulted, actually, by Hagatha claiming all this. But, yes, Ash does make a comment about about their... both Hagatha and Misty not being pretty.
And then, they both get after him.
Yeah, well, I don't even know if they say anything, but they get this, menacing, evil gleam in their eye that they do in anime sometimes. A murderous gleam. The murder gleam. Then we see Team Rocket is also lost in the woods, and they see the gang, while the gang are walking out with Hoothoot, because they've left now at this point. Hoothoot gets scared as scary ghost lights show up everywhere. Team Rocket just sees the gang running around scared of absolutely nothing. Hoothoot is then convinced to try harder for Misty, and tries to see through the illusion, but fails. Then the ghost lights turn into a much larger, scarier thing, and Hoothoot runs away. After catching up, Ash uses some tough talk, and Misty is kind, and it seems to encourage Hoothoot a little bit. But then a rope grabs Pikachu and snatches him up. Ash grabs the rope and goes up with him. And then they hear the voices of the ones that just that captured them, and Ash knows it is Team Rocket. And then another modified motto, intro, and outro.
And you notice this season, we actually know what's going on with Team Rocket and are keeping track of it, rather than last time.
Where I kept forgetting how they went missing.
I barely knew, too.
Alright, so yeah, Ash grabs the rope and goes up with him. And they hear the voices, and Ash's face is hilarious because he totally knows who is up there in the tree, even though he can't see them. He's just like, of course. Guess who?
Prepare for trouble, now we win.
And make it double. We'll really win. And then at the end, they're like,
Team Rocket will make an excellent impression.
Now that your Pikachu is in our possession. So then, Meowth shows up with a box. They put Pikachu in a box. And, the group were on ropes up in the trees. And they go to escape on a boat that's on a rope. But then it breaks and they fall and Pikachu lands back with Ash.
Yeah.
So Hoothoot sees the interaction and sees Pikachu's joy to be back with Ash. So that seems to be an inspiring moment for him. Victory Bell eats James again when he's released. Then Hoothoot starts dancing around like crazy and Team Rocket finds a Dragonite in the middle of the forest. So they focus on it instead, but it dodges their attacks and floats away. It floats off weirdly away, backwards. Team Rocket chases it, but the gang didn't see it, so it must be an illusion. Then a bunch of fake Ashes appear and confuse everyone. Poor Pikachu is freaking out and electrifies all of them, including the real one. Then Misty is surrounded by illusionary bugs, and Hoothoot runs away, but Ash gets after him for it, and Hoothoot feels guilty. So it fires up its eyes and sees through the illusion and reveals all the Haunter and Gengar that are behind the illusions.
Of course.
Then they create a mist illusion, and then Hoothoot dispels it again so Bulbasaur and Pikachu can fight them. So by the end of all this, it turns out that Ash did train Hoothoot and it listened to him. but only because he likes Misty, and he still pecks Ash in the head.
Mhm.
Then Ash and the gang are sad to find that they are back at the same stone archway where they had met Hagatha before. They hope it's another illusion, but realize it isn't when Hagatha reappears. Only it's not Hagatha. It's Nagatha. Apparently they're twins and nobody believes them because Nagatha is so much more beautiful. Yeah, okay. Then Team Rocket is finally out of the forest and relaxing on a beach, getting some sun. Only they're not. They're actually surrounded by Haunter and Gengar in the forest. So we didn't actually have any kind of blasting off or anything this time. They were just sleeping in the forest in an illusionary dream world.
Yep.
So, the Karaoke-mon song in this one was also a ridiculous song about Brock singing about Jenny and Joy, which was kind of funny. And then another note about my journey of realizing Hoothoot was clock related. So like the lines on the bottom of its eyes are the like number lines and everything. But I brought up this revelation to my wife, who isn't nearly as into Pokemon, but she plays Pokemon Go and stuff. And she totally knew. She had already noticed that forever ago, even though Ruby and I had not.
I think I knew at one point, but then I forgot.
Sure.
I'm
Anyway. But then, while I was talking to her about it, something else clicked in my brain, and I was like, wait a second. Hoothoot are one of the Pokemon that are like all over the place during New Year's Eve with their little hats and stuff. But of course they are, because they're clocks, so they're time related, like with the New Year thing. And so all those pieces fell into place, and I felt even stupider for not realizing these things. Also, Hoothoot sounding like a cuckoo clock. Hoothoot, Hoothoot. Which, I mean, that's just from the anime, so I wouldn't have realized that sooner, but still. And then finally, the Who's That Pokemon this episode is Blossom, so we can kind of expect to see them next episode. Also, on that note, for the Who's That Pokemon, I was looking into it, and the Japanese versions of the episodes, the Who's That Pokemon, do not act like the American versions, where we get a hint of what's coming next. They instead put Who's That Pokemon? It's the Pokemon that was featured in the particular episode. So the Chikorita episode is where you get Who's That Pokemon Chikorita.
Didn't they do that for the first season, if you're in Prime?
I don't know. Maybe. So anyway, they highlighted the feature Pokemon in their Who's That Pokemon segments, I think, which is cool.
Yeah. I know it's at least done that for some episodes I've seen. Because it's like a really zoomed in on that, the featured Pokemon.
Now, for the tallies for that episode. So, for Illusion Confusion, we have Recurring Rivals. Gary showed up with the Hoothoot. And we have another entry for Interesting Intros. Another one for Distracted Pokemon with Victory Bell. Another Friendly Fire with Pikachu zapping Ash. Yeah. And Entertaining Exits, which is where we feature the point where Team Rocket doesn't actually blast off again, because that does happen more than just this episode. And yeah, they dreamed themselves into their exit on this one. So those are our entries for that. Now, ranking Illusion Confusion. Personally, I feel like it can go somewhere around a sappy ending or maybe under Double Trouble Header. I liked it a lot. I liked Hoothoot a lot. But I also did like those. I think it's better than Dial. Hold That Dial, the first episode.
Yeah. I think it's just above Dial.
You think just so under Double Trouble Header, the baseball one?
Yeah.
Alright, I am down with that. Alright, so our ranking so far for the Johto Journeys is number 1, a sappy ending. Number 2, Double Trouble Header. Number 3, Illusion Confusion. Number 4, Don't Touch That Dial. And number 5, Roll On, Pokemon. And we will add to that in the future. And when I'm smarter about how I track all the tallies, I will give full tallies of what we're at next time. But, you know what that means? It is now time for Pokemon cards! I think you should blindly reach in and grab 2 packs and...
Blindly, you
Yeah.
say. Okay.
And so what set are you getting?
Scarlet and Violet, Twilight Masquerade.
I think that's one of the newer ones we got. Yeah. I have a Scarlet and Violet, Temporal Forces. Having troubles, my dear. Oh, do you want me to open it?
Take off these nails.
Somebody's got into fake nails and has some troubles now.
I can still do slip tie knots with them, so I'm pretty impressed with myself. Oh, that one was actually pretty good. Because I haven't had it in a while.
Since I went first last time, you can go first this time.
Sounds good. Illumise, grass type Pokemon.
Hey, that's just like what I got last week.
Are we reading the little?
Sure.
It guides Volbeat to draw signs in the night sky. There are scholars who research the meaning of these signs.
Yeah, I'm interested in learning more about Illumise or whatever it is in Volbeat because they're like similar looking Pokemon and seem like a pair of some kind. Just from my playing Pokemon Go. I don't know anything else about them really.
Then I got Applin. What type do you think it is?
Dragon.
How'd you know? It's a grass type Pokemon.
It's a dragon type
It's meant to
Pokemon.
be grass type. It's dragon type. Applin lives inside an apple. When an applin is separated from its apple, its body loses moisture and the Pokemon grows weak. I thought it said apple separated from apple.
I know. I heard you read that.
Nose pass. Fighting. When endangered, it may protect itself by increasing its magnetism.
Magnetism?
Yes. I knew that was the word, but I didn't know how to say it. And drawing nearby iron objects to its body. Seeking evolves from Goldeen.
Goldeen.
Water type. In autumn, its body becomes more fatty and preparing to propose to a mate. It takes on beautiful colors. Palafin evolves from Finzen.
Ooh, Palafin.
Water type. Ability. 0 to hero. Once during your turn, when this Pokemon moves from the active spot to the bench, you may search your deck for a Palafin X and switch it with this Pokemon. Any attached cards, damage counters, special conditions, turns in play, and any other effects remain on the new Pokemon if you switched a Pokemon in this way. Put this card into your deck, then shuffle your deck. Its physical capabilities are no different than a Finzen's, but when its allies are in danger, it transforms and powers itself up.
Interesting.
Tatsugiri, grass type, dragon type. Ability, attract customers. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may look at the top 6 cards of your deck. Reveal a supporter card you find there and put it into your hand. Shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Tatsugiri is an extremely cunning Pokemon. If it finds weaknesses to lure and prey, then orders its partners to attack. Diplin evolves from Applin.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the proper type, which is grass. It also has an ability. So many abilities. Festival lead. If Festival Grounds is in play, this Pokemon may use an attack it has twice. If the first attack knocks out your opponent's active Pokemon, you may attack again after your opponent chooses a new active Pokemon. The head sticking out belongs to the foreworm, while the tail belongs to the core worm. The two share one apple and help each other out. My reverse holo is a community center stadium trainer card. Once during each player's turn, if they played a supporter card from their hand this turn, they may heal 10 damage from each of their Pokemon. Another reverse holo and a rare. Infernape, stage 2. So it evolves from Monferno, which evolves from... Picture it.
Chimchar.
Yes, Chimchar. Fire type. Ability, Pyro Dance. Once during your turn, you may attach a basic fire energy card, a basic fighting energy card, or one of each from your hand to your Pokemon in any way you like. Its crown of fire is indicative of its fiery nature. It is beaten by none in terms of quickness. Stage 1. Blissey EX evolves from Chansey. Normal type. Ability, Happy Switch. Once during your turn, you may move your basic energy from one of your Pokemon to another one of your Pokemon. It's a secret rare, and it's 2 stars. It's like all shiny and stuff too. Just really fitting for the Johto Pokemon start.
That's true. It's a
It's
Johto Pokemon.
definitely a Blissey in the Pokeball that I wasn't sure about.
Yep, because they purposely made them all Johto stuff in that one.
Quite happy with my Blissey EX. Basic Psychic Energy.
Nice. All right. So I have Yamper. Electric type. This Pokemon is very popular as a herding dog in the Galar region. As it runs, it generates electricity from the base of its tail. Ooh. Torracat evolves from Litten, fire type. In the midst of battle, the fire pouch of Torracat's neck rings like a bell and produces stronger flames than usual. Oh, it has a bell around its neck, kind of like some cats do. That's funny. I didn't know that. Grubbin, grass type. Its natural enemies, like Rookidee, may flee rather than risk getting caught in its large mandibles that can snap thick tree branches. Ooh, that's pretty. Frostmoth evolves from Snom. Frostmoth senses air current. Oh, sorry, water type. Frostmoth senses air currents with its antenna. It sends its scales drifting on frigid air, making them fall like snow. I like the look of Frostmoth. Supporter Trainer card, Ancient, Explorer's Guidance. Look at the top 6 cards of your deck and put 2 of them into your hand. Discard the other cards. Ooh, Latias. It's a legendary Pokemon, I think, in one of the gens.
Let me see.
It's just a basic one here, but still.
Can I see the picture of it?
Yeah, just a second. It's a psychic type. It communicates using telepathy. Its body is covered in down that reflects light to make it invisible. Yeah, there's Latias and Latios.
I have one of the 2, Dragon type Latias,
Oh.
and the other one's in the back. I think it's Latias that I have,
Okay. I have a psychic Latias, apparently.
but the picture has both of them.
Yeah,
I
I'm
don't
not sure
remember
which
is which.
I don't remember for sure what gen they're in or anything like that, but I think it's one of the earlier ones. So like, I don't think it's Johto. I'm pretty sure I know it's in Johto, but like maybe Hoenn or Sinnoh, which are 3 and 4. But I could be way off. Maybe it's Kalos. I don't know. Oh, another ancient card. Pokemon Tool Trainer Ancient Booster Energy Capsule. The ancient Pokemon this card is attached to gets plus 60 HP, recovers from all special conditions, and can't be affected by any special conditions. Kind of cool.
Mm-hmm.
Ooh. My reverse holo here is Raichu evolves from Pikachu, an electric type. If the electric pouches on its cheeks become fully charged, both ears will stand straight up. He's just so happy, like rolling in the grass. Oh, sweet. Another reverse holo. Croconaw evolves from Totodile, water type. If it loses a fang, a new one grows back in its place. There are always 48 fangs lining its mouth.
Huh. That's kind of fitting with Totodile.
Ooh, I like this one. Just because I like this ghost type too. So I got Fluttermane, Psychic, Ancient Pokemon. So it's an ancient version of Misdreavus. Ability, Midnight Fluttering. As long as this Pokemon is in its active spot, your opponent's active Pokemon has no abilities except for Midnight Fluttering. Interesting, so I cancel out other abilities. Well, this Pokemon has characteristics similar to those of Fluttermane, a creature mentioned in a certain book.
Oh, that's pretty cool.
And Misdreavus is also a Johto Pokemon.
Perfect.
And a basic Dark Energy.
Ooh.
Alright, and that wraps that up. So, thank you all for listening. Routes Through Pokemon is a Hunterfield Institute production. Or you can find us on X at Hunterfield Inns. We have a Facebook group called Routes Through Pokemon. And you can even follow me on Instagram under Kinetic Card. We also have an email where if you have any questions or comments or things you want mentioned or just want to have a conversation, that's cool too. You can reach us at hunterfieldmanor@gmail.com. And that's all we have here. So next week we will be covering the next 5 episodes of Johto Journeys and then the next 3 chapters of Volume 8 of Pokemon Adventures, Gold and Silver. So that's it for now. So we will catch you on the next route. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Part 15. Sleepy Time. Well, look what we have here, the largest of the three Team Rocket goons said as he looked down at Violet. He was built like a brick wall and positioned perfectly to be such a barrier between the girl and the route ahead of her. His partner from Mount Moon and the Magikarp salesman made up the other two and were closing in from either side. Running different options through her mind, she briefly considered retreating back into the Pokemon Center, but wasn't sure she could get there in time, and that those three would still be lurking outside, waiting for her. There was a chance she could dive between Mr. Wall's legs, but if that failed, it would just make her that much easier to grab.
Alright.
She thought to herself.
I'll need to rely on my three companions then.
She swallowed hard and tried to think of which Pokemon she should release first, and how they would be most effective. She looked at the path she was on and saw it was paved.
Perfect.
Violet knew as soon as she went for the Pokeballs, everything would happen fast, and so she took a deep breath, tried to calm her nerves, before she made any move other than the slow steps backward as each of the Team Rocket members inched closer. She reached for two Pokeballs at the same time and aimed one right in front of her and the other to her left.
Mizu, bubble the ground. V, quick attack.
Once the Pokemon were out, she quickly put the balls away and went for the last one. All three men began to charge forward, just as she hoped. The Horsey's bubble attack made the path in front of Mr. Wall slick, and his feet flew up right in front of him. His cry as he fell to the ground was amusingly high-pitched for such a large man. Meanwhile, his partner was suddenly attacked by V as he came forward. Violet started to pull the last ball out, but found her wrist suddenly caught in the grip of the salesman. Nice moves, girl, but not quick. Wasting no time, Violet kicked the salesman right in the shin. Her arm was immediately free, and she aimed the last Pokeball in the air.
Lucky, supersonic.
The Zubat shot upward and then flapped around and seemed a little lost. Then it flew down and dug its fangs into the salesman.
Okay, that works, I guess.
Mizu hopped up onto Violet's shoulder as she ran around the big guy who was rolling over to push himself back up.
Alright, let's go.
The Zubat flew off of the salesman and followed above, and V was zigzagging around, trying hard to not let the other Team Rocket goon catch him. Violet aimed his Pokeball back at him, and the beam of light shot out and encompassed the pale Eevee and brought him back safely into his ball. Get her! Screamed the man as he ran past his larger partner, who was now getting a hand up from the salesman. Violet took one look to see him leading the way, and the other two lagging behind in pursuit, and so she turned around and pushed her legs harder. She leapt from a small ledge and into some tall grass and then ducked and held as close to the rock wall as she could. A screech from above reminded her that the Zubat was still out, and so she quickly aimed his Pokeball up and returned him. She tried to breathe as softly as she could as her lungs reached out for as much oxygen as they could get. There was a small rustle nearby, and Violet nearly bolted, but stopped short, realizing her pursuers were likely not sneaking up to her in the small patch of grass. Curious, she tried to look without moving from her spot, and, really, trying not to move at all. She could see something between the blades of grass, but it was hard to make out. Then, a very pleasant and soothing sound floated toward her from that direction. The next thing Violet knew was that she was staring up at the stars in the night sky. Her mouth stretched into a large yawn, and her arms reached out at the same time. Mizu was next to her and was sleeping quite peacefully. The girl sat up with a jolt as she remembered she was being chased. But, as she looked around, she also remembered it had not been dark out before. Slowly it dawned on her that she must have fallen asleep while waiting for Team Rocket to pass, but that seemed strange. Had she really been that exhausted? Still perplexed by her situation, Violet slowly peeked up over the ledge to see if anyone was around. There wasn't. Standing up and brushing some of the dirt off her clothes, she noticed marks in her arms where grass had been pressed for a while, and it was clear that more than a few minutes had certainly passed. She tried to think about the moments preceding her drifting off into slumber, and then she recalled the rustling grass and the creature hidden in there.
It was pink, right?
She wondered to herself.
And then there was that sound, like a song. Oh.
Violet thought back to her studies and recalled that some Pokemon could sing, and it was said some were powerful enough to not just put other Pokemon to sleep, but people, too.
I was jigglypuffed, wasn't I?
She shook her head, slightly amused. After all, at least she hadn't been found by Team Rocket. Violet sighed and scooped up her Horsey, gently coaxing him awake.
I know it's late, Mizu, but we should keep going. I don't want to stay in one spot too long with those rocket guys after us.
The horsey blinked its bleary eyes and looked around as if trying to understand where it was and how it got there. Mizu's face took on a more peaceful expression when Violet placed it on her shoulder, which had become a familiar and comfortable place.
All right, now it looks like Pewter City is just straight west from here.
Violet said as she consulted her map.
As long as we don't meet any more trouble along the way, we should be there in no time.
No time is right, as in you'll never make it there. Not if I have anything to say about it. To be continued.